'Tis the season. It's that time of year when everyone is stuffing their faces with holiday treats just before swearing off the good stuff and vowing to hit the gym to finally get rid of that not so jolly jiggle around your middle. And after struggling to get my middle jiggle to budge, I did it. I finally learned the secret to not only losing weight after 40, but after close to 30 years of struggling with diet after diet. I found the secret. No, not that secret. I found the secret to keeping the weight off forever. And I promise, if you've been following common weight loss wisdom, it's not what you've been told. But before we talk about the real truth when it comes to fat loss that lasts forever, first we have to get on the right track, because you can't keep the weight off if you don't lose it first. And the best way to do that is by forming the right habits, especially since consistent habits are exactly how we win at weight loss. Because weight loss that sticks has nothing to do with killing yourself on cardio machines. And it absolutely does not involve depriving yourself of all of your favorite foods with the latest starve yourself thin plan. In fact, if you're still following these methods to lose weight, I mean, sure, you might see your scale drop, but for how long? And at what cost? As someone who's struggled with weight loss for more than 30 years, I know a thing or two about losing weight. But it wasn't until my 40s that I finally figured out that fat loss is way less complicated than we all make it. And one way I made losing fat far too complicated for decades was jumping on the latest and greatest diet trend. In the early 90s, when Cable Fit Club was all the rage, I spent hours in my room stepping along with Tammy Lee Webb. In the late 90s, when the Dr. Atkins diet revolution came back, I quit meals made up of carbs served with more carbs because, yes, spaghetti sandwiches were a thing, and I instead filled my plate with overly processed meats dipped in mayo or some other low carb combo that didn't involve a lot of cooking. Because back then, this girl barely knew how to light burners without burning down my house. And then came low calorie, followed by more cardio, and then low fat, and so on and so forth until I seem to have followed every fad diet known to man. Or in most cases, women, since we seem to be the ones falling for all of these crappy diets. But the moral of this story is cutting out entire food groups, slashing calories extremely low, and running until my legs were about to fall off did nothing to keep the weight off. And it wasn't until I hit my mid-40s that I finally figured out that instead of constantly researching the latest new diets, that I had to be done with all trendy diets for good. Once I really thought about why I regained half of what I lost with my last trendy diet, I realized instead of sitting on my computer, Googling even more diet rules, that I should really get up and go for a walk. Because getting more movement is key to weight loss that sticks. And flipping the pages of diet books really isn't the kind of movement that my body needs. Once I quit searching for the magic weight loss pill and had a chance to clear my head while walking up to 10,000 steps per day, that's when I remembered that every time I was successful with weight loss in the past, I always tracked what I ate. Only before, my goal was to eat as few calories as possible, because quick weight loss. But having a clear head from all of that walking made me realize that cutting calories so low never worked for very long. So this time, I decided that while I still did need to be in a calorie deficit, I didn't have to go all in with some starvation plan that wouldn't last. This time, I wanted a plan with more flexibility. That way, I could still feel like I was making progress during the week while having the luxury of eating out with my family on weekends. But since my scale wasn't dropping as quickly as it did with previous diets, I knew I had to pay attention to more than just the number on the scale. Because losing only half to 1% of my total weight each week, that wasn't exactly motivating enough to keep me going. At least not at the beginning. So this time around, I also tracked measurements, especially around my belly button, since the inches you lose there are almost pure fat. But I also took plenty of progress photos just to make sure I was getting the whole story. And while this extra data helped me keep my head in the fat loss game, learning to have patience was key to a successful plan. And boy, did I need patience. Because at the beginning, my scale hardly moved. And if I was still in that quick weight loss mindset, I know I would have given up completely. But part of the reason my scale hardly budged those first few months is because of a process known as body recomp. This is a process where you lose fat while also gaining muscle. And even though the scale isn't saying what you want it to say, I promise body recomp is exactly what you want. And that's because the more muscle you have, the stronger your metabolism is. And the stronger your metabolism is, the easier it is to lose fat and keep it off forever. In fact, now that I'm nearly 2 years into my transformation, I finally realized what I'd been missing for 30 years that led to diet failure after diet failure. Losing weight and keeping it off really had nothing to do with slashing calories until I could slash them no more. And true fat loss would never come from traditional weight loss methods like excessive cardio, starvation diets, or cutting out entire food groups. The secret to finally keeping the weight off and quitting yo-yo diets for good is building muscle. But before I committed to a strength training program, I had to learn why strength training 2 to 4 times each week would help me lose fat and actually keep it off. Because quite frankly, I used to believe that lifting weights would only result in me looking like He-Man. And to be honest, I had this really bad dream when I was a kid. Something about Skeletor holding me hostage in a dark castle and He-Man showing up to save me, but he couldn't. Well, I don't remember all of the details, but trust me when I say that I was traumatized. But even if I didn't have this strange He-Man, Skeletor, dark castle connection, well, what woman really wants to look like He-Man? But here's the thing. Building muscle doesn't cause women to look like this. I mean, unless you put in a ton of work at the gym, then it's a good possibility. But I promise, women who look like this, well, that is very intentional. Women who lift weights 3 to 4 times each week, a lot of them look like this, and maybe even this. Oh, hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
And not only do these women have the sculpted, toned body that most women want, but these women get to eat. Mostly because building muscle, well, it takes nourishment. Even better news, building muscle also boosts your metabolism, which means you can eat a pretty decent amount while still shedding fat. So basically, it's a win-win situation. Of course, building a stronger metabolism doesn't just happen while you're sitting around starving yourself and Googling new diet rules. But if you want to know what it does take to finally get the fat loss results that you've always wanted while quitting yo-yo diets for good, then you should watch this video next.